This report could change your Australian migration plans forever if you are planning to migrate to Australia or if you are already in the process. Today's update is not something you can afford to ignore. A newly released report connected directly to the Australian government has revealed which occupations Australia truly needs, and the findings are honestly shocking. Many people have been preparing their migration strategy based on outdated occupation lists, assumptions, or advice from years ago. But this report clearly shows that Australia's priorities are changing fast. Some occupations are now critically short, meaning the country cannot function properly without migrant workers. At the same time, other roles that were once considered safe for migration are quietly losing importance. This is not speculation or opinion. This is workforce data that influences visa invitations, state nominations, and future migration planning. So if you want to understand where Australia is heading in 2026 and beyond, stay with me, because this information could save you years of wasted effort. What is the JSA report, and why the government takes it seriously? The report everyone is talking about comes from Jobs and Skills Australia, also known as JSA. This is not just another research organization or private consultancy. JSA is a government-backed authority that advises the federal government on workforce shortages, skills planning, training priorities, and most importantly, skilled migration needs. When JSA releases a report, it directly feeds into decisions around skilled occupation lists, visa quotas, and state nomination strategies. In simple terms, this is the data policymakers rely on when deciding who Australia wants and needs as migrants. What makes this report particularly important is that it looks at long-term shortages, not temporary gaps caused by COVID or short-term economic fluctuations. It identifies which occupations Australia cannot fill locally, even with training and incentives. That means these shortages are structural, deep, and ongoing. For migrants, this kind of classification can dramatically improve visa prospects, processing speed, and nomination chances. The shocking reality: occupations Australia is desperate for. One of the most surprising aspects of the JSA report is just how severe some of these shortages have become. We are not talking about mild demand or occasional hiring difficulties. The report clearly states that several occupations are experiencing critical and persistent shortages across almost every state and territory. Healthcare workers, aged care staff, disability support workers, teachers, and construction trades are at the top of this list. In many regions, these roles are essential to keeping basic services running. Hospitals are understaffed, aged care facilities are struggling, schools cannot find qualified teachers, and housing projects are delayed due to lack of skilled workers. What's important here is that these shortages are expected to continue for many years. Even if Australia trains more locals, the demand is growing faster than supply. This creates a strong long-term dependency on skilled migrants, which directly benefits applicants in these fields. Healthcare and aged care. A long-term migration priority, healthcare and aged care emerge as some of the most critical sectors in the JSA report. And this should not come as a surprise. Australia's population is aging rapidly, and the demand for nurses, personal care workers, allied health professionals, and aged care staff is increasing every single year. The report makes it very clear that domestic training alone cannot meet this demand. Even with government funding and incentives, there simply are not enough local workers entering or staying in these professions. This is why migrants play such a crucial role. For visa applicants, this is a strong signal that healthcare and care-related occupations will continue to receive priority treatment in skilled migration programs. This could mean faster visa processing, higher invitation numbers, and more flexible pathways through employer sponsorship and state nomination. For anyone working in this sector, Australia's need is not temporary, it is structural. Construction and trades. The hidden crisis driving migration. Another major revelation from the JSA report is the scale of shortages in construction and skilled trades. Australia is currently facing a severe housing shortage, combined with massive infrastructure projects across the country. But without enough skilled workers, these projects are falling behind schedule. Electricians, carpenters, plumbers, civil engineers, and construction managers are now listed as high-need occupations. What's interesting is that this demand is not limited to major cities. Regional areas are especially affected, which strengthens the case for regional migration visas and state sponsorship. From a migration perspective, this is extremely important. When construction shortages start affecting housing affordability and economic growth, governments respond quickly. This increases the likelihood of targeted migration pathways, priority processing, and state-led nomination programs for these roles. If your occupation falls in this category, the system is quietly shifting in your favor. Teaching and education. A national shortage few talk about. Teaching shortages, especially in regional and remote Australia, are now being described as severe and persistent in the JSA report. Schools are struggling to recruit qualified teachers in key subjects such as mathematics, science, and special education. This problem is not limited to one state. It is nationwide. The report highlights that high workloads, burnout, and limited local supply are pushing many teachers out of the profession faster than new ones can be trained. For migrants, this is a very strong signal. Historically, teaching has been a challenging occupation due to registration and assessment requirements. But when shortages become critical, governments are forced to adapt. This may lead to more flexible recognition pathways, increased state sponsorship, and stronger regional incentives. If you are a qualified teacher, especially with experience, Australia's long-term demand could open doors that were previously difficult to access. Occupations losing priority. The uncomfortable truth, while some occupations are gaining priority, others are quietly losing it. And this is where many applicants may face disappointment. The JSA report shows that certain general business roles, administrative positions, and some oversupplied ICT occupations are no longer considered critical shortages. This does not mean migration is impossible for these roles, but it does mean competition will increase significantly. States and employers are becoming more selective, focusing on roles that directly solve workforce crises. Many applicants in these occupations will need higher points, stronger work experience, regional strategies, or employer sponsorship to stay competitive. This shift highlights an important reality. Australia's migration system is becoming less about broad eligibility and more about economic necessity. Understanding this early can help you adjust your strategy instead of waiting years for invitations that may never come. Final thoughts. Australia is moving to a needs-based migration system. When you look at the JSA report as a whole, one thing becomes very clear. Australia is no longer running a migration program based on who wants to migrate. It is increasingly focused on who Australia actually needs to function and grow. This needs-based approach will shape skilled migration in 2026 and beyond. For applicants, this means success will depend less on luck and more on alignment with workforce demand. If your occupation matches Australia's long-term needs, your chances improve significantly. If not, you will need to be more strategic than ever. This report is not meant to discourage. It is meant to inform. Migration decisions take time, money, and emotional investment. Understanding where Australia is heading can help you make smarter choices and avoid costly mistakes. I will continue to break down these changes as new information emerges, so stay informed and stay prepared.